The all season is here. Are the Suns going to make a big move? Let's talk about it after this. What's up, y'all? Welcome into the PHNX Sun Show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHNX365 when you sign up and find out why winning is everything at Bet365. Gil here, got the freckled Mamba behind the Mac. Got Steven to my right, Eric to my left. What's up, y'all?
Yo, it's Giannis time. You ready to get Greek?
I need to learn how to say what's up in Greek.
Ooh, I'm gonna look that up right now.
While he does that, what's up, Steven? How you feeling, man?
Chilling. Don't want to jump too quick into off-season stuff because I don't want this season to get lost, but it's a fun time to play the hypotheticals. So here we are playing the hypotheticals.
Apano.
We'll work on the...
I don't know. Yeah,
we'll work on the...
Giannis, why don't you just let me know when you're here? But no, I agree with Steven. While it is fun to look ahead, and we will look ahead a lot here. The Suns were just in the playoffs, right? And there's a lot you can learn from that. A lot you can learn from that.
And obviously, we had the exit interviews with the players yesterday. A few guys, and we'll hear from Matt Ishby and Brian Gregory tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that on tomorrow's show. But today, obviously, we will talk about some of the hypotheticals moving forward. But before we go too far into that, there was a series. And we heard a lot about what the players themselves learned from the series. But we haven't really talked too much about what we learned from the series. We talked about Game 4, and we talked about the series bits and pieces here and there. But, Eric, I know you posed the question or answered the question. We both kind of had the same answer as far as what this team learned about themselves in the series and what they need moving forward. And you said, got to get bigger.
Yeah, I think you just know in the NBA nowadays that you need to have a good amount of size. And not just at the center position, even though having Mark Williams would help. And it's the reason why you drafted Kaman Malawach to get a 7-foot-plus guy that can man the middle, but just all the way across the board, specifically at that wings position, right? You mentioned yesterday, Steven, the fact that Dillon Brooks might be able to have an even better season next year if he's going from being scaled up to the 4 to about where he should be at the 3. Part of that is you have to get bigger. You have to have other options at that 4 that can go and rebound, maybe stretch the floor a little bit, play some interior defense. I think the Suns have some pieces that could help play into that, but overall, as a team, you went up against a team that started 2 7-footers in the first round, and yeah, maybe they're the best team in the league, but you look around at these other teams in the Western Conference, Wemby and the Spurs, hey, that's a pretty big guy. Jokic and the Nuggets, right? Like, you have a lot of teams, even the Rockets when they were healthy, that are just way bigger than you. You got to get bigger and catch up to them.
Yeah, definitely. That helps for sure. I think just generally and genuinely, the execution level for them has to be significantly better. It's cool to have hot pockets, but you need more than just hot pockets against a team like Oklahoma City or past just any opponent to get to where you desire to be in terms of sustaining winning on that level. Think about how many times throughout the season I mentioned kill shots and the probability of winning that goes if you're able to compile even just 2 of those kill shots over the course of a series or over the course of 48 minutes versus when you're succumb to your opponent doing that. The probability of winning significantly rises versus significantly drops when you're on the right and wrong side of those things. So better managing those. I don't know how many of those 23-9, 27-4 type runs Oklahoma City was able to compile in the 4-game series against the Suns, but the Suns were on the wrong side of those entirely too much. So getting the execution level aligned with their game process, but also having size, to Eric's point, would definitely help with all of that. But rim pressure is also very important to all of that. Some of the things the Suns will succumb to is partly because they just didn't have anybody that could get downhill consistently after Jalen Green. You take that, you put that against an all-time defense like Oklahoma City is. If you're not putting pressure on them and they're consistently dictating the terms of you, that gets real tough to navigate over a full series worth of games.
I think when I listen to this, and you guys make great points, and I think about Oklahoma City being the gold standard, right? That's the team who they're going to make other teams probably look like the way they made the Suns look in the first round. And that's not a knock on the Suns. All credit to the Thunder. And I don't necessarily want to say like you always shoot for the moon, and if you don't get there, you're somewhere in the clouds. But thinking about taking that one step forward to get towards being, in that range between 4 and 6 in the Western Conference. And I think about the Thunder series and what we saw or did not see, but also what we did not see on the back half of the second part of the season, right? So I'm thinking about the shortcomings in the fourth quarter, the blown leads, and a lot of the things that we probably thought could have made that better. Thinking about just better pieces to have the offense continue to flow. Other people, the rim pressure, the creation, the secondary creation, allowing Devin Booker to be freed up a little more, but also getting hurt on the glass and execution, just a lot of things like that stand out to me. And I think there's no coincidence that some of the names that we will talk about later on are some of the names that we'll talk about. But I am curious as far as like learning about this team and what the next step is. Like, is it realistic to say, hey, there are a couple tweaks here and there this team could make to be fourth in the Western Conference next year, to have home court advantage?
Yeah.
Is that a realistic goal?
I think you learned this season that you're not as far away as you thought that you were going to be. Because again, you were in that 7th seed basically from like November on pretty consistently. If you had Jalen Green for the full season, right? When you get to the end of the year, is Colin Gillespie as exhausted? Right? Are other guys maybe winding down on the injury trail like a Grayson Allen, like a Dillon Brooks, like a Devin Booker, because they maybe wouldn't have to do as much earlier in the season if Jalen Green's around? I think, unfortunately for Mark and him not being around at the end of the season, that's just kind of how Mark Williams is going to be. But despite all this adversity, you still found yourself in a position where until the last couple of weeks of the season, you were in contention to be an actual playoff team. If you make a couple of tweaks, even if the tweaks are internal development, right? If Rasheer Fleming just plays as a rotation player or near starter level, if Kaman Malawach plays as a rotation player or near starter level or ends up being your starter next year, that could be enough to vault you into the playoffs. Add that with, can Jalen Green play the whole season and get a little better? Colin Gillespie maintain his shooting? Like, there are all sorts of things that, even if you just duplicate this exact roster next year with hopefully some development around the clock, like, there are arguments to be made that you are a lot closer than maybe some people are talking about. Again, development's not always linear though, so that could also go the other way where you think you're going to take a step forward and maybe some guys take a step back.
Stephen Collins said it yesterday. He said that, he mentioned the same thing you said. He was like, his team won 45 games, and Jalen missed the time that he missed. Mark missed the time that he missed. Book missed the time that he missed. Dillon missed the time that he missed. And he said that in his eyes, if things went better, could have been a team that won 50 games, 55 games even throughout there, which I thought was very ambitious, but I think that that's how you're supposed to approach your own team. Is it as simple as, hey, I wonder what this team could have been like? Because in addition to the fact that guys were gassed because they were asked to do more, the main guys never were able to really click and develop the chemistry that they would have had they had a actual runway, which is a word that we probably said here to no end when everybody was injured.
Yeah, I think that's the that's the intriguing part about it. That just sparked something for me to look up that I just responded to last night. Yes. So start with the Suns' 3 best players. So Devin Booker, Dillon Brooks, Jalen Green. They spent 193 minutes together during the regular season.
It's not a lot.
That's not very many.
Just 193 minutes. Through the play-in, they spent 158 minutes together. And through the entire season, including the playoffs, 351 minutes total. So all inclusive 351 minutes with those 3 on the floor together. That's barely 7.5 games worth of minutes if they played a full 48 for each of those games. It's not a lot at all. Not only do you not have chemistry and continuity built with one another, you just haven't been through things together with each other. There's certain type of synergy that you need to be not thought about on that playoff stage. Think about Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. You think about Colin Gillespie and Oso Ighodaro. Why are they so good together? They spent a lot of time on a G League level last season, and then at the end of the NBA season last season, and then also obviously this season because of the injuries to so many guys, they were just, hey, can y'all go play? And they just figured it out. Next thing you know, all of a sudden people start making Steph Curry and Draymond Green light jokes. But the common denominator is the continuity of time spent on the floor. You just start figuring things out. You don't have to think about it. You're just playing and react. So those three need a significantly longer runway to be able to fairly assess if they can truly work as a trio together. Now, they need more talent around them. They need more capable pieces around them. They need more size, more rim pressure around them. But I think that to rush and say that this does not work would be the most ignoring an incomplete grade that I've ever seen. And some of the things being said about those three and the way that guys are taking shots from Devin, when we come to find out in the conversations with Ott and other players, no, they were taking shots because they were trying to leverage the attention that Devin was getting. You need guys that can go create on their own accord in the ways that those two can. Just need more time with each other on the floor.
Well, and I think that's another thing that you learn from playing OKC is that it's not just Shea, right? Like Shea's great, but OKC's a team, and they're also a team that has stuck together and has had a lot of continuity and a lot of consistency throughout the last couple of seasons. And you see that in the first round where they take on a team in Phoenix that is kind of still figuring things out, getting into the swing of things, specifically with their top tier level players. But then Oso Ighodaro went from starting at the beginning of the season to the bench to starting again. Colin Gillespie bench to starting to bench to back to starting. Goodwin from the bench to start. Like, there wasn't a lot of consistency. Mm-hmm. You learn that over time, if you give a group of guys a chance to develop together, that could pay dividends. Now, the difference here is that you're on two different timelines, though, as well, where you have Devin Booker, who's almost 30, Dillon Brooks, who's almost 30, Grayson Allen, who's almost 30, Royce O'Neal, who's over 30, right? Like, you have that group of guys that's a little bit older, and then you have your younger group, Jalen Green, Mark Williams, Kaman Malawach, Rasheer Fleming, Ryan Dunn, Oso Ighodaro. So you're not in the same place as the Thunder where they start early and everybody's kind of on the same timeline. So when you do kind of say, let's give things time, let's get things to work out, you are running up a little bit against the clock of how much longer of Devin Booker's prime are you in? And if it takes 2 to 3 years for everybody to get fully acclimated and to be their best around each other, what does Devin Booker's best look like at that point? It is a risk. I'm not saying that it's the wrong move to do that, but now you're starting to incorporate the back end of this roster and saying, like, okay, the older guys, what timeline are we going to be investing in the most?
All right, you make a great point because Book will be 30 on opening night, as you said, and who knows how many more All-Star seasons he has left in him. We talk so much about
is that his fault or is that?
I mean, I'm thinking Father Time and how he kind of takes with that role as far as that goes. Because I mean, it is true, right? Mm-hmm. Because if more is being asked of him, that might make that part of it accelerate. Or if the stress being placed upon him, the way the team is built and incorporated and everything works together, I think that has a hand in as far as your aging or the acceleration of your career. And I think the way we're talking about it, and we're talking about continuity and time, it brings up the age-old question of, do you run it back or do you change things up? And we will answer that question after our first break.
I tell you all the time about things that I hate. Let me tell you about things that I love. That means getting stuff for free. And I get free perks when I use Mountain America Credit Union's My Style checking account. Just for putting my money in a My Style checking account with Mountain America Credit Union, I get restaurant deals, mobile phone protection, telehealth access, identity protection, loan rate discounts, offers on travel and events, and more. Just for using Mountain America Credit Union, just for using the official credit union of the Phoenix Suns. But guess what? The Suns season, that already happened. Want to know what season's coming up next? Mercury season, also the official credit union of the Phoenix Mercury. So take one of those cards, make it the My Style checking account as a debit card, then use the other one as a credit card, a no annual fee credit card with loan rate, cashback, and rewards cards options. Go ahead and make My Style your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/mystyle to apply. Insured by NCUA. Membership required based on eligibility. Some benefits required. No cost registration and activation. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply.
People complain about the modern day basketball game with threes and everything, but I'm not complaining about Arizona Lottery and their triple themed games. Triple the games, triple the fun. So 3 is the magic number, and 3 is obviously more than 2. There are 3 exciting triple themed games from Arizona Lottery: triple red sevens, triple cash payout scratchers, and the chance to win over $100,000.
Dang!
Over $100,000.
That's a lot of money.
Triple red sevens fast play has a progressive jackpot And that begins at $30,000. And in addition to that, you have the multiplier family, multiplier scratchers. Perfect way to add to your life. You could say Arizona Lottery X us equals money. How much money? Over $270 million in prizes. And you can do a lot.
I like that
things.
equation.
You can do a lot of things with that type of money. So you can go play Arizona Lottery over 3,500 retailers across Arizona. But of course, we love to play it at Circle K. Must be 21. Plus, find all these tickets at a retailer near you. So we talked about it a little bit here on the PHNX Suns show. And this team won 45 games. They lost their first play-in tournament game. They won the second one. They were the 8th seed. They faced the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we saw what this team had, what they didn't have, because they faced, by probably all of our accounts, the best team in the NBA. And we've talked a lot about the importance of continuity and continuity in the coaching staff, continuity in your core three guys. And I guess my question for you all when we talk about running it back, what is considered running it back? Is it bringing not every single person back? That's almost impossible. But is it your top 7 in your rotation in the belief that the answer is on your roster? Or I guess in a different way to ask the question, Eric, would you be disappointed if we're here in October and basically the core and the rotation looks exactly the same as it did at its best during this past season?
Disappointed's a harsh word, but I think so. I think that going into next season, there have been some pretty clear flaws that have been exposed for this team. And as much as this season was a great learning experience and a good step, I think you need to encourage this team to kind of take some steps forward. Because when you want to be a top tier team in the West, a top tier team, in the NBA, you usually have to assess your issues from the year before and change them. Now, would I be disappointed if a majority of this core came back? Absolutely not. I think if you're saying running it back, it starts with Devin Booker, Jalen Green, and Dillon Brooks. The core running it back is those three. Who else you include in that core, I think, is a fascinating conversation. But Devin Booker has shown at times in his career where he can have multiple seasons of some type of continuity and chemistry that works for him. So I think that when you start at the top, you have to find a way to keep some consistency there. Beyond that, I think the fifth starter and maybe the fourth starter, depending on who's going to be your center, that is also going to be a fascinating conversation, because I feel like if there's going to be any change, the bench mob is okay. It's the fact that half of the bench mob is in the starting lineup that probably needs to be shifted.
Yeah, they need to make some changes. They need to make some changes based off of the information presented to them. Some of that might be, some of that they might not have much of a choice in based off of the way the market is set up and what their cap situation is and who has a hold on their cap still. I think that part matters a ton. But yes, they need external help to turn corners in their process. So if you look at who they had in the room this season, and you look at one of their fatal flaws being free throw rate, being second to last pretty much a majority of the season, or third to last pretty much a majority of the season. And then you also look at rim pressure stats, so field goal attempts, the gravity that comes with when you do get a drive, the volume of drives that you're putting forth on your opponents. That's not anything that's going to come with a positive or significant hit to where they're putting pressure on teams different than they did this past season without some look at things on the external. So might that be free agency? Potentially. Might that be via trade? Potentially. But they have to go and find some external things to add to this foundational season that they had where they saw a lot of successes.
So I was going to ask about that, and a big part of it is how much of it is the answer is on your roster. Guys who did not get as much opportunity. Your young guys, your Rasheer Fleming, your man, even Kobe Brea, a guy who was a part of the system as well. I don't know if he's a step away or 2 steps away, but what voids could they answer? And in what ways is it just, we'll upgrade and get a better version of what we already have? Because there is a formula for success. We saw it work, but also we recognize and we saw the flaws and we saw the ceiling of that maybe. And maybe we didn't see the ceiling of it. Maybe this team could be 4 or 5 wins better, but not necessarily built for postseason success.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we saw the real version of them, though, for the last couple months of the season. Right. I think the last thing that you want to do is look at the first couple months of the season and make your decisions solely based off of that. I think there's a lot of valuable information from that. I think it gave you some positive. outlooks, but at the end of the day, like you are both. You are the beginning of the season, you are the end of the season, you are the playoffs, you're all of that combined in one. So you can't run and hide from it, right? You have to embrace that, and maybe you could say, all right, if fully healthy, we could do this, but we have also seen teams that are like, oh, we're going to hold on to a little bit of hope and we're going to run with that, and then that hope goes and bites them in the ass. Now, a change this summer of a big variety feels somewhat unlikely, but I do think that if you do roll into next season and you say, let's bet on our guys internally, let's develop internally, let's get Rasheer some play, let's give Kaman some play, let's hope Oso and Ryan take a step, Jalen in his age 25 season, hopefully he takes a step, maybe get a power forward just to ease things up there. And then you are 8th seed, 9th seed in the West come trade deadline time, then I really think that the dam opens of like, okay, we gave it a shot. We gave it a look. Let's see if we can actually go get somebody. But we also have seen teams just find an opportunity. A star comes on the market and they say, we don't want to pass this up. The Suns were swept in the first round and we're the 8th seed. That's not a team that you protect at all costs and run it back, right? So I think all of it is on the table this summer.
Steven, you watched those young guys play more than anybody, especially their Valley Suns reps. Do you see all of them as upgrades or better versions of what this team had early in the year when they weren't playing and they had the success? Because the first half of the season through January was probably the peak of the year, and the back half was when things tailed off. Could you see those guys next season, specifically Man and Rasheer, stepping in and doing a better job than, say, a Mark did if his future with this franchise is up in the air? To say, maybe, I don't know, would it be more of a Royce role? Would it be more of the Dunn role? I don't know what it would be for Rasheer, but could they be upgrades if they improve and develop the way that they're expected to?
Upgrades is probably too steep for me because they still have things to prove that the other guys that you mentioned were in the main rotation for the most part have shown a steadiness in providing, whether it just be one or two specific skills and they have some wild card skills that they bring, like Royce O'Neal's playmaking, Grayson Allen's downhill attacking. Don't know if they're going to be able to provide more than those guys did in those roles this season, but I do think they can be better versions of themselves. And what that does for the floor for the Suns, if they do find other ways to add talent or just grow as a team in the pieces that are kind of ahead of them in the pecking order, that puts those two in much better position to be a significantly better version of what they showed to be at the end post All-Star break stretch this season. So they can be. I'm not expecting a big time leap from either of those two. I just don't think that is fair to expect from them. But I do think that a full offseason with the NBA training regimen, as well as the skill development, as well as summer league and everything film-wise that they have from the post All-Star break stretch and the playoffs, I think there's a lot that they'll learn and grow from, and they're probably already kind of taking the axe to the tree and chomping that down as it is.
So when is it fair to expect that from them? I mean, like, not even like, I'm saying, like, what, like, at what point do you think that's like midway through year 2, or like is that a year 3 thing? I know they're on different developmental timelines, knowing Rasheer's background, how long he played in college, and him being older, man, his background, how long he's played, period. Like at a certain point, I have patience, but I'm curious at like when it's like, okay, results. Let's do this.
I would probably say like halfway through, or not even necessarily halfway, probably around New Year of this upcoming season. So by the end of this calendar year, we should probably be seeing a lot more tangible evidence of, okay, you were this last season, you came into this season, all the body watch people come in saying, oh my God, look at the muscles. Cool, that's scripted, that's how it should be. But what is the skill development looking like? Is the game slowing down for them mentally? Are they dictating to their strengths? Are they adding value and impact to the main rotation? Are they staying in the rotation, making themselves irreplaceable in some capacity? I think those are a few of the things I'll be looking at.
And I think it's understandable to not go into next season and automatically go, Rasheer Fleming's going to go from out of the playoff rotation to starting, right? Or Kaman Malawach is going to go from out of the rotation when healthy to starting or to in it. But I also think we have to understand that there is a reality where these types of young players can just take a leap, right? We see it all the time where there's a development, there's a click, there's something there. Specifically with Rasheer, I think that there is a world. I'm not saying it's a likely world, but there is a world where everything we say the Suns need, size of the power forward positioning, rebounding, somebody that can stretch out and hit a three from that position and move everybody back to their kind of natural positions in the starting lineup. I think there's a world where Rasheer Fleming can be that guy next season and maybe even early on in the season. We saw him when he got his playing time slowly develop to the point where people were upset that he wasn't playing and he was actually making a difference and an impact. I'm not saying that's my expectations for him, and I'm not saying that, automatically he's going to walk in better than Grayson Allen and better than Royce O'Neal, but his ceiling is higher than them, right? Like his physical ceiling, obviously his age, where we thought he was going to go in the draft last year. We thought that this guy was probably going to be a mid-first round pick. Like all of these things put together, there is a world and a reality where we go into next season and the Suns say we're going to mainly run it back and we are going to bet. We are going to bet that Rasheer Fleming takes a leap, and we're going to bet that Kaman Malawach is going to show us so much more positives that he's at least going to be in the rotation. And then by the midway point of the year, the All-Star break or sometime, he might be in contention for starting. I think that there is a big gamble on those two guys specifically going into next season, especially if the Suns don't make a big move. And I think that they believe in them as well. They're going to put a lot into them. And while it might not be what should be expected, I think there is a reality where those two guys do help shore up a ton of the problems the Suns have just purely off of size alone.
So my rebuttal to it, and I don't think it's out the realm of possibility, but so if we're saying that the Suns they finished in 8th this season. They finished the regular season in 7th. They finished going into the playoffs as the 8th seed. The expectation is to improve upon that to just ducking the play-in tournament outright and finishing with a top 6 record. How realistic is it for you to see that vision come to fruition with those two guys being borderline starters or high-end minute-earning pieces for the main rotation?
The way I see it, and you said this earlier when I asked you about them specifically, you talked about raising the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if they make tangible development at not anything exponential, but just the type of development that they should make from year 1 to year 2, just understanding the system, understanding the NBA game, raising the floor should mean that you can trust them more and you don't have losses like the Bucks lost at home, like the Bulls lost at home. You name the unacceptable losses that this team has. I think that's because their floor was lower than we expected it to be this year. Now, I also think that they overachieved in a lot of games and won some that they maybe quote unquote shouldn't have won. And I also think that the floor being higher, though their minutes on the floor should be better. So in theory, you get a little more injury luck and those guys are better. I would think that this team would probably still hover somewhere between 44 and 48 wins.
Yeah.
I don't think that it makes you a 50-win team. I think that the thought of health making this team a 50-win team is maybe a step too far. But as far as that goes, I do think that, and who knows what the West shapes out like last year. I mean, next year, I think I don't know how many games the Timberwolves won. I think they ended up winning 47 games or 48 games to be in the 6th seed this year.
And you got teams like Utah that are coming in guns blazing with size and all of that type of playoff ready stuff next season.
True.
Probably 1 or 2 other teams that were underneath the Suns this season that will be better than they were this season. Injury luck also strikes in other teams' favor too. So,
which I think is part of the reason why a lot of people looked at wanting them to play Rasheer Fleming and Kaman Malawach, is understanding that we're also looking towards next season as well, right? Like, could we have seen more from Rasheer Fleming if he was given 4 legitimate opportunities to play in the playoffs instead of 8 minutes, right? I also think that as much as we have to understand that it's a lot to ask for a second-year player to come in and to take a leap, like if you look around the league, it's the same thing about rookies, right? Like you can look at rookies and say, oh, well, rookies don't usually contribute to playoff-level basketball, but then you look in Toronto at Colin Murray-Boyles, a guy picked 1 spot before Kaman Malawach. Like he's contributed into a playoff team.
A lot.
Like a lot, right? I mean, there are rookies every single year who go in and contribute to high-level basketball. There are second-year players every single year that go in and contribute to high-level basketball. Like all of this is something that you see in the league often. It is not a league where only the 25 plus year olds are dominating, right? there are legit starters that are in their second year, and Rasheer Fleming played a couple more years of college basketball. There are draft picks who are in the top 10 who immediately go in and play in the playoffs, and I think that was a really frustrating part over these last couple of weeks of not seeing those guys, is that you know that is definitely possible. Now, will they make mistakes and will they be perfect? No, but if what you said, Stephen, which is by the halfway point of the year, right? By the new year, that's when they can turn the corner. Well, they're only allowed to turn the corner if they're able to drive, right? They have to be put in a position to go out there and to play consistent minutes. I'll be really disappointed if going into next season, both Rasheer Fleming and Kaman Malawach are not in the rotation. Not just because I think that their pure size alone can help shore up a lot of the problems, but let's be honest here. You don't have a pick this year. You have the 47th pick in the draft, right? As of right now, these two guys are going to be who you're betting your future on. Specifically, Kaman Malawach, who was the 10th overall pick in the draft. You have to at least give them some leeway to learn and to play, and I actually think that they could be good enough to make a difference.
So would you be more disappointed than them for not earning the time, or would you be more disappointed in the situation for them not being able to maybe play through the mistakes? Like we talked about this year, if this team was 5 or 6 games worse, we would have probably seen the rookies play a lot more. Yeah. And now next year, it's in a situation where it's a little bit different.
They're not rookies anymore.
They're not rookies anymore,
right? Like
so,
these are
so does the onus on them to be ready to go, or to give them more opportunity too?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you only get the opportunity if you could take advantage of it. Yeah. I think what we've seen with both of them, though, Kaman makes more mistakes, but that they both have stepped up to the plate in all the different situations they've been put into. Specifically, Rasheer Fleming, we've seen him instantly check in even when he's not playing and have some sort of impact. Like I'm only saying this because I believe they're good players, and I believe they're two guys that fix a lot of the problems that they have. And if you think that's a coincidence, I don't know what you're thinking. I think there's an absolute reason that Brian Gregory drafted both Kaman Malawach and Rasheer Fleming to a team that we are now sitting here at the end of the season saying has a ton of size problems. This is the plan. Those two are the plan. They are a part of this franchise's future, and I think they're going to get a good shot to prove that next season.
Before we throw it to a break, Steve, I was going to ask you, what do you think that those guys need to do more consistently over the summer and when the season rolls around to be those guys that, one, answer the problems, and two, are firmly in the rotation and we're not wondering whether or not they're going to play?
Yeah, just to look at them individually, I guess you can lump them both together and just get in the weight room, not even in a negative way, but just to add to what they already
NBA strength.
present. It's different. College strength, even after a few months in the NBA, you see guys' bodies grow, but it usually takes a full off season's worth of regimented workouts, looking at your body weaknesses, but also looking at skill things that can help. So if Kaman wants to be better around the rim defensively, and he's a little bit stronger, and he can take some more hits to the chest, that hits a lot different than what he came into in his rookie season. And for Rasheer, kind of a similar thing. If guys are able to get into his chest, but they can't negate his space that he's trying to take away, in tandem with that 7'5" and some change wingspan, what does that do for him in terms of his impact defensively, which is already clearly league ready? So like little things like that with those two, without diving too much into the details, which we naturally will over the offseason. But I think the other big thing is watching the film, not just seeing what you did well, looking at the flaws, looking at, okay, Jordan had me in the rotation for a stretch of games, and then all of a sudden I hit a snag, and then I just missed like 6 games. What was it? Was it my decision-making on offense? Was it my impact on defense and how it fluctuated? Was I fouling or reaching too much? Was I not in position in coverage, defending to scheme? Was I doing things defensively that caused rotations behind me, which then led to fouls on my teammates or the opponents getting wide open opportunities or dribble drive layups? Like little things like that, all of those things matter. Those have already been underway, so it's not going to be like they're doing something new. It's just going to get a multiplier because there's no games in the way of the skill development part right now.
So excited to dive into the details this offseason, which I know we'll do for those two and many others. And I know you all are excited for us to talk about who's featured on this thumbnail. We're going to do that after this. Depending on who you ask, it is the best time of the sports calendar.
Ooh.
Even if your team was eliminated, the NBA playoffs are still going on.
And the Suns have Game 5 coming up tomorrow.
We're just waiting. Suns at 9.
Game 5 Suns, Thunder, and Game 5 Warriors Grizzlies happening in the same 2 days.
At the exact same time. Not to mention NHL playoffs. Carolina Hurricanes already in the second round. You got MLB going on.
Okay.
And then The WNBA season is right around the corner. And if you want to get involved with all of that, you can do so at Bet365. For new users, you can bet 10 and get $200 in bonus bets thanks to their Bet 10 Get 200 promo. Yeah, I'm not lying.
That sounds like a typo, but I'm going to believe you.
All you got to do is sign up, make a $10 bet, and they'll throw you $200 in bonus bets you can use in all those sports that I named and then some. Just download the app, use the code PHNX365. Bet365 is where winning is everything. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 and up, must be physically located in Arizona. Terms and conditions apply, in-app only.
There are plenty of amazing real estate agents all across Arizona, but there's only one at the top. There's only one name to remember, that is Kim Caballero. Kim Caballero has been working in the Valley business realm for over 25 years, and she's now helping Arizona families with both buying and selling homes. With a network of investors, builders, and developers, she'll give you insider insight on property potential, helping you see opportunities that others may miss or most likely will miss. Kim has been working with your interests at all times. You are always her top priority. You will never get passed up to another agent. She has proven strategies to help both buyers and sellers secure the best possible terms, and she will guide you every step of the way. Kim and her husband have lived here in Arizona for over 20 years, and she understands what truly matters when choosing a home. Let Kim put her local expertise to work for you. Call Kim Caballero today at 480-489-5012. That's 480-489-5012.
Back here at the PHNX Sun Show, presented by Bet365, talking about the off season, because it is now here. And with the off season comes rumors.
Yes.
A lot of rumors. Some founded, some unfounded. But as you might see, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Ja Morant are two people who could be subject to founded or unfounded rumors linking them to the Phoenix Suns. First of all, incredible jersey swaps. Which one looks more natural in the purple and orange?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Shout out everything.
Shout out to the Mamba.
I think it's got to be Giannis. Maybe
This looks right.
maybe that's just my cope, but I think it's got to be Giannis. I mean, look, I think we have to do a disclaimer here, right? Where we understand that the reality is the Suns most likely will not be trading for either Giannis or for Ja Morant. Now, also, people would sit there before they traded for Kevin Durant and say there's no way the Suns would be able to trade for Kevin Durant. But one thing that we also have to acknowledge is that Devin Booker has made the Phoenix Suns a destination.
Yes.
And I know that a lot of people are going to hope that Matt Ishbia has kind of learned from the Kevin Durant trade, but this franchise has had a propensity over its history to make pretty big trades to bring star players here, going all the way back even to Charles Barkley. So, and buying low on a star as well. So, Giannis and Ja are two names that a lot of people bring up. Ja, obviously the most attainable one, but I think it comes down to kind of the principle of it, right? The principle of, are you in a spot now where you want to take a bet on leveraging all the things that we talked about beforehand, the continuity, the young guys, because they're going, because you don't have any picks to trade, so those guys are going, and possibly a Dillon Brooks, possibly a Jalen Green, possibly both of them, to get a guy like Giannis, or in a lesser extent to get a guy like Ja. I think that's kind of the thought exercise here of like, are the Suns now in a position to say we want to catapult ourselves to that top four conversation, and the only way to get close to guaranteeing that is to add some more star power to this roster?
Yeah, I think I don't think the Suns are done going after top tier, top end talent. I think that Matt Ishbia and company have learned that the terms with which you are willing to go and do so matter as much as your desire in terms of wanting a guy in your house to, play with your star player in Devin Booker. I don't think they're willing to give up the proverbial house to bring one of those pieces in to play with Devin. If they can make it work and feel comfortable with what they will still have while also bringing in external ads, I think that will help a ton. I think that's the direction they should be looking to go, to take that bump up to being more playoff level ready, and build off of this foundational season that they just established. That being said, I've seen a lot said about Ja Morant. I'm not liking a lot of it.
Me
I
neither.
think I start with the elephant in the room. Josh played 79 games over the last 3 seasons. That is not going to get it done for a team that's trying to do things in the 16-game season, past the 82. But you can't ignore the 82 if you're trying to get to the 16, as we've seen. So I start there. That is definitely something to think about, to worry about, all of those things. However, Ja Morant is one of the closer to traditional point guards that the league has at the elite level. And that's not something that people are probably going to be like, "Oh, really?" Like that's not something that people kind of look at him lens-wise through. For the people that want to see Devin Booker in that quote-unquote killer mode and attacking more and things like that, Ja Morant is a player that's okay getting a team into their offense and then getting off it and then cutting and doing a lot of things from the periphery in that respect. He's been playoff level capable of executing in that role multiple times over the last handful of years of his career. Um, I just don't know if the Suns should be wanting to downsize around Devin, however. So that's probably my personal only thing against Ja is that he's just not the biggest guy. He doesn't impact the defensive side of the ball enough to make me feel comfortable with him being around Devin. But to the Giannis side of things, if you want to go that route,
Can I say something about Ja though? Because I will say I'm probably a little lower on Ja than you guys are. I think he's an incredible talent. I mean, athletically, he's great. I think he's declined slightly athletically, at least maybe in his willingness to go full blown and use it during a game. But he's not doing the same stuff athletically that we saw him do as like a 19, 20-year-old in the league, which is understandable. The playmaking's great. The most underrated aspect of his game. The injuries are concerning. The other concern is the 3-point percentage. Over the last the last 4 seasons, Ja Morant's highest 3-point percentage was 30.9% on 5.7 threes attempted. Now, I get that Jalen Green has some lows, but he has these highs because if you're getting Ja Morant, you're probably trading Jalen Green. Let's just also put that out there, right? So, Ja Morant is not a good 3-point shooter on a very large sample size. The highest he's ever shot from 3 is 34.4% in 2021, 2022. One of his best seasons that he's had. Top 7 MVP candidate that year for Ja Morant in just 57 games, by the way. Devin Booker, we love Devin Booker. What has been the big problem with Book over the last couple of years? That 3-point shot is not consistent. It is not where it needs to be. It was almost one of the biggest offensive storylines for this season until he was in the 3-point contest at the All-Star break. If you trade for Ja Morant, yes, maybe you get some better off-ball looks for Devin Booker, but now you have a backcourt of 2 guys who are shooting low 30% from 3 on high volume as your stars. How sustainable is that if the defense isn't going to be there with it? That is one of my big concerns with Ja because the shooting has not been good. He shot 23% from deep on 4 attempts this year.
Is it weird that I don't know? I respect that. Is it weird that I'm not that saying I don't care is probably too strong of a word, but is that I'm like not worried about that? Like I think that's like a very real valid concern, but I also just feel like the playmaking kind of over covers that for me. Like I think that they figure something else out, or that I guess to rewind what I'm saying because I'm just kind of talking here. I think you have to recreate everything around them if that's the route that you want to go down. You need to have just lasers around on the court to give him the space to operate. Even though Ja's lost a step due to injury and just getting older, even though he's almost 27, he's not like 30 yet. Which life starts after 30, you guys. But anyway. Even I do think that he was, an S tier athlete. So an S tier athlete losing a step or two, he's still one of the better athletes in the league. And I think giving him that space, and I just think that he has a gear that he hasn't been able to tap into because I think that this is maybe another problem in itself. But I think that he's been checked out in Memphis for a while now, and I think that it's kind of one of those situations where you see a guy. It's just kind of a drawn out version of like Vince Carter when we went from Toronto to New Jersey, and people were like, he doesn't dunk anymore and all this stuff. And then he goes to New Jersey and is like dunking like 4 or 5 times a game. I think it'd be that kind of situation with him. I just think that he is done there and needs new scenery and maybe going to a situation. Cause I know people are talking about character concerns. I don't necessarily. I think he's made mistakes as a young person and some pretty bad mistakes, but I also think that getting older and being in a situation with a better culture would help him with that too.
for sure. I pushed back a little bit on him and Devin not being good 3-point shooters because I think the thing for Devin, if we want to dive deeper into context, is the pull-up 3-point shot in particular. My rebuttal is, what about if the pull-up three doesn't matter as much because he's just not handling it at points of attack for that reason specifically? Shot 38% on catch and shoot threes this year, only 1.9 attempts. That screams that no one's creating for him. He's not getting opportunities to play off the catch. You put someone like Ja Morant around Devin Booker. Ja Morant, regardless of athletic capacity, regardless of the lack of a 3-point shot, he's going to put his head on the rim. Past him and the individual player, defenses are going to account for the basket in ways that they just did not with the Suns this season until Jalen Green found his rhythm. And even with the drives that Jalen was able to compile, there's a different level of gravity. If everybody loves to throw that word around, probably the first time you heard me use it on the pod. There's a different type of gravity that Ja has when he's driving and blowing past somebody at the point of attack, whether that be off a handoff or in pick and roll or in just isolation, and even more so in transition. He gets that first domino to fall in a way that maybe only 12 other players do better than him this season. And those 12 players probably only do it better because they're bigger than him. I start with that, and you're talking about someone that can connect and create for Devin Booker. I think that's the overarching premise. Don't want that to get lost in all of these ads we're talking about. The goal is to be better prepared for the playoffs. One way to be better prepared for the playoffs if you can create more for Devin Booker. And it's not incumbent on him to always be the person that's getting that first domino to fall.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that that's something that I got into a lot of people on Twitter was about the point guard conversation. I know we're specifically talking about a point guard. At the end of the day, you need an advantage creator. You don't need a point guard. And Ja Morant can create a lot of advantages. To Laura's point, saying Ja checking out is the issue, right? Like this kind of team, this culture is full of guys that no matter what's going on, like you're not allowed to check out. And I get it. It was a bad situation for Ja. I don't think that Ja and Book can't work together, right? I think I am a little bit worried about giving up on Jalen Green, even though Ja has already had a higher peak in his time in the NBA than Jalen ever has as an all-NBA player, as an all-star, as somebody who's, been the best player on a playoff team that had a little bit of success, at least more success than what Jalen Green had, even though if neither of them are going on deep playoff runs as the best player on their team. My thing with Jalen is we talk about advantage creators, and I do believe that Jalen Green's going to continue to get better. And I feel like if he got this entire season, we would have seen him get better. I don't think he'll ever be the playmaker that Ja has been at, but if he's a more consistent 3-point shooter and mid-range creator, that creates a lot of advantages, right? So I'm a little worried about trading for a guy in Ja and banking on the change in situation because that could help, but what if he's just not going to be a great shooter? I mean, when we played Ja, and I get that he can create advantages to get downhill, I was saying go under every single screen. And you live with
push
it.
Back, context-wise, every team's tried that, and guess where he still ends up? In the paint, engaging the opposing big, and creating that first domino to fall. That's the whole.
I think he takes a lot of threes that he probably shouldn't be taking as well, especially when
That's
he's
fair, but
not shooting well.
But like we talked about last season with guys, if that three ball is not falling, Ryan Dunn, for example, you still got to shoot it.
Sure.
You got to try to keep a defense somewhat honest, even if your confidence or the efficiency isn't necessary.
Yeah, and I just don't think that you're going to get Ja for Jalen straight up. I think you have to attach something with Jalen just because that's what the Grizzlies are going to want. Jalen Green, like you mentioned, the stuff that the Suns didn't get as far as getting to the rim and getting a paint touch didn't happen until what? Jalen Green was back on the court, right? If Jalen Green, who's younger, in a new situation where we talked about betting on Jalen Green and getting him better and whatnot, can put pressure on the rim, be a better 3-point shooter, maybe not be as good of a passer, but let's say he cleans up his turnovers a little bit and again, evens that out with the 3-point shooting. I think there's a world where you could say Jalen Green could be a similarly good running mate with Devin Booker in the backcourt as Ja Morant could be, and you don't have to give up something else to go get Ja Morant. You could save that asset as either a rotation piece or whatever second round pick, whatever you're going to be able to scrounge up in general to make the Grizzlies interested in doing this. That's kind of why I'm more hesitant on Ja than obviously a guy like Giannis who's going to take so much more, including some of these, top end players like a Dillon or a Jalen plus Rasheer and Kaman and maybe Ryan and maybe Oso and whatever picks you can try to scrounge up, and maybe you trade Grayson or Royce for some picks, and we'll go through legit trades later in the offseason. The reason why I'm more prone to do something with Giannis is just because, like, I think it's a very clear-cut upgrade. Even if Giannis isn't in his prime, I think currently, even this last season with the injury concerns, a clear-cut upgrade over what you have. I think there's a world where we talk about Jalen Green's career doing this and Ja Morant's career kind of doing this at this point. Doesn't mean he's bad at all. I'm just saying we have a dynamic guard that can create advantages, and I kind of want to bet on him instead of giving up something else for another disgruntled one.
Yeah, I think that the traditional point guard thing gives Ja the edge for me there, but I think the questions there's so many of them that it makes it hard to not stick with who and what you have. And I want to continue. I know you talked about Giannis. We continue that Giannis conversation. We'll do that after our final break. What I appreciate most about APS is budget billing. We all have to budget for things in life, whether it's a car, whether it's a home, whether it's a vacation, whether it's a birthday gift for your co-host, whatever it is.
Whose birthday might be coming up?
I have no idea. Yuki Kawamura's birthday is on Saturday, so I don't know. He's not a host on here, but it's somebody like that with a birthday on May 2nd. Not yet. But APS has you covered with their budget billing. And what that does, it averages your payment out for the entire year. And you know that energy bills can go up and down. But if it's averaged out over the year, it helps you manage that budget. So many folks looking for ways to budget. And APS has got you covered with that. Paying about the same every month allows you to just know what's coming and be a little more predictable and understand what you have to deal with from month to month. Find all your options to manage your bill at aps.com/let's talk. One more time, aps.com/let's talk.
You said it's the best time of the year for sports. It's also the best time of the year for fights. That's right. Coming up soon, it's David Benavidez versus Zurdo Ramirez live at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, the Cueva Event Center. And trust me, this is more than just watching a fight. This is a full-on experience. We're talking mariachi music setting the vibe, signed merch giveaways that you actually get to take home, food and drink specials flowing all night, and that nonstop electric fight night energy you can't get sitting on your couch. If you've ever wanted to feel like you are part of the action, this is it. Big screen, big crowd, big atmosphere. Every punch hits a little harder when you're surrounded by fans who are just as fired up as you are. So grab your crew, lock in your spot, and get ready for a fight night that delivers from start to finish. Catch Benavidez and Zurdo live at the Cueva Event Center only at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Don't watch it alone. Experience it. Tickets can be found on Ticketmaster or, of course, contact Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos.
Talk about hitting hard. A punch that probably would hit hard is the trade package that it would take to bring in Giannis Antetokounmpo. I know there's been conversation about the Suns having no path. Not directly, but I think it would take some creativity, and all it takes is Giannis saying, hey, I want to be there, and then everybody involved would figure things out. Other teams would get involved. Things would happen. Things would move around. But I want to talk about Giannis because there's been a lot said about him. He's a 10-time All-Star. He's 31 years old. He'll be 32 in December. He only played in 36 games this past year, but it was really weird and messy with the Bucks. Him saying he was able to play and they weren't letting him play, and they just, I guess, were being more focused on the future and not necessarily winning games. But when he was available, he averaged a shade under 28 points per game, shade under 10 boards per game, and 5.5 assists per game, which you talked about it, creating advantages.
Yeah.
Few people create advantages better than the 6'11" dude who plays point forward and is more than just run and dunk man, contrary to popular belief.
I still think Giannis is a top 5 player in the world.
Absolutely.
I don't think that the conversation around Giannis has been completely fair to him. The Bucks have just been a terribly run organization. Awful organization the last couple of years, and especially how they've handled him. You want to talk about guys checking out? I feel like Giannis has been a little checked out, but the difference is that he's been fighting to get on the court, right? Wants to be on the court. And look, when you talk about a guy that a fan base can totally get behind, like I think that Giannis is that type of superstar, right? We say the Suns need size. They need somebody who can bruise, who can score in the paint, who can draw defenses in with a paint touch. It's Giannis, which is also the reason why he's the most unrealistic option that we'll probably talk about this entire summer. But he's got the Instagram post, the like a phoenix, I'll rise again. But I think that if you're talking about matching Devin Booker's prime, if you had to pick a best case scenario to go pick a star to go and match Book's prime, like right now it is Giannis. They're in a similar age bracket, play two completely different positions, two good passers, good advantage creators who are looking to win a championship today. It would be fascinating, and It would be a lot to give up, but I understand why people want him.
Yeah, Giannis would be the guy if you're able to get him. I still don't think it's gonna take the trade package to get him in the room because of everything that happened this season and Milwaukee overplaying their hand and everything getting exposed on that front. So, I mean, that's even been reported by some people over at one of those 4-letter national media companies saying that the trade package to receive Giannis will not be what it was even just 2 seasons ago. It's not because Giannis's production has tailed off. It's because of the hashtag other things that have been going on. Giannis only played 28.9 minutes this season. 27.6 points a game. Would have led the league in 2-point field goals made at 9.9 and did that on 64.7% from 2.
With a terrible roster around him.
I mean, like, what more can you say? He also finished second. He would have finished second in the league in free throw attempts a game.
Well, and also with the whole trade package thing, think about what the Suns gave up for Kevin Durant, and then think about what they got back. I know that we feel good about the KD trade in retrospect now, getting him, to Houston and receiving Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks and changing your culture. Come on, Malawach, the 10th pick in the draft, and then a bunch of seconds that turned into Rasheer Fleming. At the time, that was considered highway robbery for the Houston Rockets. It was considered not nearly enough as much value as you can get out of Kevin Durant. Ever since the KD trade, the Gobert trade, the Mikal Bridges trades, those trades don't happen anymore.
Desmond Bain trade?
What?
The Desmond Bain trade?
Even that, people are like, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you are not going to find teams that are just going to go out there and automatically empty their entire war chest to go get somebody nowadays. Because you don't have to. Kevin Durant forced his way out, forced to where he wanted to go, and the Suns could negotiate with Houston to get as much as Houston was willing to give up. Houston literally was like, we'll take the best player in this deal, and we won't give you any of the assets that you want or that we don't want to give you. We're not going to give you Jabari Smith, right? We're not going to get you Amen Thompson. We're not going to give you Tari. We're not going to give you any of these forwards that you seem to so desperately want, because we don't want to do that. So if Giannis goes to Milwaukee and says, I'm out of here, I'm not signing another contract with you, I'm not going to sign any contract with anywhere else that I go, I'm going to decide where I go and I want to go to Phoenix, the Suns would be able to get it done. That's just how this works. Does he choose Phoenix, I think, is also another question here, is will he be a type of player that goes, I can go win a championship there? A lot of guys like Devin Booker, but is Phoenix's roster in the place to give up whatever it takes to get Giannis, which will still be a sizable package, even if it's not 5 first-round picks and whatever, people might imagine it would be, and still find a way to compete this next year? Because Giannis is not going to a team that's going to be retooling for a year before competing.
I think that's where having top-down alignment matters. Where you have a coach like Jordan Knott who has laid the foundation for something that's garnered reverence from his peers. That matters. Play style. And players can see between what is a gimmick versus something that has legs that can translate to the playoff stage. Jordan Knott's been at the helm of an offense that's been the best in league history on the playoff stage before, as recent as this time last year. Jordan Knott has philosophies that, with the other teams that are kind of at that cutting edge of the evolution of the way that basketball is approached on the offensive end, he's had those things in his toolbox for the past 2 seasons now. Last season as a top-tier assistant, this season as an outright head coach. Giannis is looking around like, okay, if the foundation is ripe enough to grow from, and even if it takes pieces to bring him in, he can still say that, for one, he knows he's playing with another killer in Devin Booker, but he also has somebody that he trusts from the sideline and a general manager that is willing to make moves to get the most out of those pieces, maximizing that. That's enough to make him want to potentially choose Phoenix. I think that's what I mentioned in the opening when we started talking about these trade options. The Suns aren't going to give up the house. So if not giving up the house means you give up some of your vet pieces, but you retain potentially a Dillon Brooks and your young pieces, or at least one of your 2 young pieces, do you say no to that?
I don't think you can. I don't.
And that's my thing. This is Giannis we're talking about. Mm-hmm. You only get but so many chances to get one of those guys. More often than not, if a team got one of those guys, they probably hit the luck of the draw in a draft and had one of those lottery balls bounce their way also to help them and facilitate making that happen. You don't just say, nah, I'm good on one of these. Obviously, like I said, you don't give up the house and mess up your future for a piece like that potentially. But if you have the chance to do it and they're choosing you in some capacity, even if he said you're one of the 3 teams I'm interested in, you have to put things on the line, maybe 1 or 2 pieces that you might not necessarily be comfortable parting with to get him in house, knowing that you just significantly shifted your opportunity to be better in the 16-game season for at least the next 5 seasons.
So that's the thing that we're talking about. I think people have asked the question of like, why would Giannis want to come here? I don't know. Why would he want to come here? And I'm going to answer that question. I'm not just saying there's no reason he wouldn't want to come here. But I also saw a comment that said this team is kind of like where the Thunder were a couple years ago when they were on the up. I would disagree because the guy in the middle of that was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
We also don't have the picks
Who's
to go
Chet?
around.
No, who's Chet Holmgren?
Well, this, but I mean, before they even did all of that,
where's the war chest of picks?
Before all of that, they had a 23 or 24-year-old guy who was at the center of it all, and they were building around him. This team is building around a guy who's going to be 30 next year, who still has good years in him, but it's very different than where they were. I would compare this team, even though that team also has Shai on it, but more like the Clippers in 2019 that had an identity. They were scrappy, and we're like, man, if they just had another guy there, because this team actually is a step ahead of that because they have Devin Booker, who's a guy. But that 2019 Clippers team that Kawhi ultimately ended up signing with, and they ended up trading for Paul George, that was a team that overachieved, won 48 games, was AC in the Western Conference. They gave the Warriors a little more of a test than the Suns were able to give the Thunder. But what they did was they displayed a culture that other guys were like, you know, I wouldn't mind being a part of that. So I think ultimately it just comes down to, if there is a sense of admiration, and we know that across the board throughout the league, all the coaches around the league admire the way this team plays. All it takes is Giannis being like, he's a blue collar guy. Like he's, you know, we talked about blue,
the bluest collar.
I mean, let's be honest here. It's Devin Booker.
Yeah.
Like it's
right.
The roster is the roster. The coach is the coach. But him and Devin Booker have even like publicly shown love to each other. They've competed against each other. Like they've been in all-star situations. I think it was this season. Giannis is like, we could be wearing the same jersey. Literally said that to him.
Nike loves teams that have their athletes,
right?
2 signature guys.
And it's a West Coast move for Giannis, which I don't know if that's going to be the most enticing for him, but maybe. I will also say,
I can speak for being a Midwesterner. Probably tired of that snow.
Yeah,
and the cold.
Well, and I'll say this too,
and I can speak for Ayrton on that too.
Kevin Durant, the problem with trading for Kevin Durant was multifold. One, it was what you did afterwards. It was going and getting Bradley Beal and hamstringing
Overplayed
your
your
roster,
head.
like
too much
off of that, and then building a roster poorly around it. I still make the point of I would still do the Kevin Durant trade simply because if I can change what happened afterwards, then yes. But if not, like if it's the same, then no, you don't make the Kevin Durant trade. It was also, you completely handicapped yourself from a picks perspective. Guess what? That's already happened. So like the Suns can't do it again, right? Also, when you traded for Kevin Durant, he was 34 years old when you traded for him. Giannis is currently, I believe,
He's
31 years old.
KD was 34, also, 2 seasons removed from Achilles.
Major injuries.
Yes. So the context.
And he was in the middle of recovering from another major injury.
Exactly. That context all matters.
So all of that put into it to where we don't see trades like the KD trade anymore. And that's partially because the Gobert trade to Minnesota ruined everything for as far as like value.
Because the market is messed up.
Why are you trading 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert? You're not going to give me 5 first-round picks for Kevin Durant and Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, right? Like all of these players. So it is a little bit of a different situation around all of it. And also, like, let's be honest, you're going to have to get a little bit more desperate here. I don't think that this summer is the summer the Suns go to aggressively try to make a move. Now, if a move comes to them, that's a different conversation. But I think that if you get to next trade deadline and you are not taking a legitimate step, I do not think Devin Booker will request a trade out of Phoenix. I think Devin Booker will request to go big fish hunting, because you are going to start staring down the barrel a little bit of the end of your career. I get that, hey, Book might have 10 more years, right? His game might age gracefully. Or maybe some of these concerns about the lack of athleticism that he's had, maybe just taking a step back. Can he go and get his shot against tougher defenses? He might need somebody to be that guy. So it's going to be a very interesting tight wire that they need to walk, and Giannis might come and hand them a parachute, but he might not. I think if he doesn't force his way here, it's going to be, let's see how this season goes with some minor tweaks and then go big fish hunting.
My last thought on this is that I would not be surprised if he comes out and says it. I'm not saying I think that this team is going to be super aggressive in making it happen, or they will even try to make it happen. But I will say that I would not be surprised if, because of Book, because of the identity here, because of wanting a change of scenery, this is on one of the list of destinations that Giannis would want to play at.
Yeah. And one last thing, there's been a lot of conversations on Suns Social about selling high on certain players, right? And I don't want to trade Dillon Brooks. I don't want to trade Jalen Green. I don't want to, sign and trade Colin Gillespie. I don't want to do these things. But there is something to be said about selling high on a player. I think the last time the Suns did it was Kelly Oubre. What they get back from trading, Kelly Oubre and some other pieces, obviously, as well. They got a guy who helped lead them to the finals, right? So it is an interesting thought exercise of capitalizing when your value is at its highest, to where if you're going to trade for Giannis, even if you request to be here, you have to give up some value. Is this the closest that you'll have to get that value with some of the guys that had career years this past year, which is quite a large handful of them? Can you cash in on those chips to maybe get somebody on a steal and bet on the career years are exactly that? Instead of the start of a new normal, it was, hey, remember that 1 year that Dillon Brooks scored 20 points per game, which I don't think so. We talked about it yesterday, but it is a thought exercise that this front office is going to have to go through this offseason.
Yeah, I don't think you part with Dillon Brooks.
I agree.
I would hope that anybody that's been watching our podcast this past season understands that Dillon Brooks puts the ball in the basket and is a borderline all-NBA caliber defender year in and year out. Cool. Awesome. There's a lot of guys that do that. What separates you from that? He impacts the culture of the places that he goes. And this season was probably the most intentional way in which he's gone about doing that, to the point of us hearing him, Gil, yesterday speak transparently about guys on the roster succumbing to his leadership, but also challenging him to be a better version of what he already was really good with. And that ultimately culminating in this culture that we've seen them establish. So he has value that you just really can't replace, especially to the extent that we saw it happen for them in this foundational season. He needs to be around regardless of what move they make. But again, if you're able to get Giannis, to answer the question from Cortez in the chat, can we being the Suns win with Giannis? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Giannis Antetokounmpo is probably the 4th best player in the NBA, and when he's at his best, he could be the best guy in any series against any opponent, which is very relevant in the Western Conference, and also is a guy that literally as one individual piece addresses all of the weaknesses the Suns had this season. Rim pressure, no problem. Not just the drives, the post-ups, the cutting, the rolling, the transition. There's a lot to Giannis's game that translates well to the playoffs. Past that, you talk about free throw rate. I just said 36 games this season, only 28 minutes, and he was second in the league in free throws on average per game. That's not by happenstance that he does that. Additionally, defensive rebounding, check box. Size, check.
Yep.
Rim protection, yes. Small ball. People want to loud or talk down on Jordan out for how much you like small ball. If Giannis is at the 5, it's not a traditional 5. Is that really small ball? Because he's probably the same size as any opposing big that he might be going up against. And past all of that, though, the intangibles. No different than Dillon Brooks. Giannis drives winning. He is an elite level competitor. When he's on the court, he raises the floor for everybody in their approach, and he just makes everybody better. He would be one of the few pieces that could come in and make Devin Booker a better basketball player.
Question. If the Bucks say we will only trade you Giannis, but you have to include Dillon Brooks in the trade package, you say?
That would be a conversation to have. Okay. It's relevant to what else are they asking for.
Is that maybe the only guy that you would
Giannis probably the only guy I would consider trading Dillon Brooks for at this present moment. And this is not me saying
look how far we've come.
Dillon is untouchable.
Shout out
I'm talking about the intangibles. You have to have somebody that can bring that in some capacity. You have to have somebody that can bring that in some capacity. There's few guys in the superstar realm that bring the qualities that Dillon does in that capacity. Giannis is one of the few pieces that does do that.
There you go. I think it's going to be a fascinating conversation because this is the first but not the last Giannis conversation that we'll have this offseason until he goes somewhere else or says he doesn't want to come here. It's something that will be at not necessarily the forefront of our minds, but it will be on our minds and the who stays.
Hey, would you trade?
Well, yeah, would you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. About to say my
It would hurt. I mean, it would hurt. I don't want to trade Dillon Brooks. I want to keep Dillon Brooks back, but like,
it's a generational player.
I'm still the guy who says that if I can change what happens after the KD trade, I still do the KD trade, and that's me talking about the KD trade. So
why would you say that?
at the end of the day, if you have the opportunity to go and get that type of guy and pair him next to Devin Booker, I trust this front office and this staff to build a better team around Book and Giannis than the team that was built around Book and KD. And actually, I think that Book and Giannis is a better fit together than Book and KD, simply because of the two different play styles. There's a lot less overlap. I mean, it's the closest thing you'll get to having Book and Shaq together, to be completely honest with you, with how Giannis plays. So I would do it. I think it would be very hard for me to say anybody is untouchable in a Giannis trade. It would pay me to trade Dillon, Jalen, Rasheer, Kaman. Like, these are all things that would suck, but it takes money to make money. At the end of the day, I want a championship. That's what I want. And I think Giannis is an instant contending championship level type player, more so than what Kevin Durant was on when he was traded from Brooklyn to Phoenix at 34 years old.
I'll just say real quick, last thing for me. If they're asking for other pieces and you're able to keep Dillon, or if you have to give up Dillon and they're able to keep other pieces, it opens up cap space. What that cap space enables you to do, hey, Jordan Goodwin, we had fun this season, didn't we? Want to come back? We got a little bit extra space that we can maybe throw you a couple extra more dollars than we were able to do prior to that trade, or things like that. I think those things matter. Copy and paste that same conversation with Colin Gillespie if you still value him like that. There's a lot you can do there in that newfound space that you might create.
Yeah, I was going to say, my last thought was the most intriguing part of the conversation. We kind of touched on it already, is who stays and who goes in a potential deal with him or anybody else. I'm letting you guys out on this one. Pistons and Rockets are facing elimination tonight. Who stays, who goes?
Neither.
Done.
One more time.
Pistons and Rockets are facing elimination tonight. Who stays, who goes?
Pistons stay, Rockets.
Done.
Rockets lift off in 3.
Kevin Durant.
Offseason in 3.
Kevin Durant, welcome to Detroit.
There you go. That answers all their problems. Wow. We're just getting started here with offseason conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. For the Freckle Mamba, you can follow at Freckle Mamba. You can follow Steven at Steven PG3, and that's Steven with a PH. You can follow Eric at ERIKRUBY. You can follow me at Gil McGregor _. You can follow the show at PHNX _ Suns. We'll have way more off the offseason. We'll be at the exit interviews tomorrow for Matt Ishbia and Brian Gregory, and we'll have much more trade speculation as well as we get more rumors closer to the offseason really getting underway. Appreciate you hanging out with us this afternoon. We'll catch you back here, same place tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.